But we begin with the news that moved the market. Stat News pouring some cold water on the promise of a Moderna coronavirus vaccine. The report saying, according to the vaccine experts it interviewed, there's really no way to know how impressive or not the vaccine may be. While Moderna blitzed the media, it revealed very little information. Most of what it did disclose were words, not data. That report sent stocks tumbling. Look at the market reaction when the story hit. Just around 3 p.m. Eastern time, stocks sold off sharply into the close. Closed at the lows of the session. Moderna, of course, finishing the day sharply lower. Guy Adami, the hope rally was fueled by Moderna, and here we have, the decline in the markets because of Moderna.
Yeah, and it's disappointing, number one, and I'm not a clinical research scientist, nor do I pretend to be. But when we talked about this last night, we said, you know what, it seems a little sparse in terms of information, and we thought that people were getting their hopes up, and a lot of yesterday's market was predicated on, obviously, that news, and I thought as well the 60 Minutes interview with Jay Powell. So, the fact that we're down today on the back of that is not all that surprising, but I'll say this. And again, I'm not casting aspersions at all, but they were very quick, Moderna, to price a 17.6 million share secondary at $76, off that move the stock saw yesterday. So, we talked about it not really passing the sniff test last night. And, in my eyes, it doesn't really pass the sniff test today. I think, it's going to be interesting to see if there are any ramifications going forward on the back of that.
Yeah, some of the other issues that this report from Stat News raised was that sample size. Remember, they cited specifically 8 patients that developed neutralizing antibodies. Those are the antibodies that people should be focusing on, but they didn't disclose any data about those 8 patients. And 8 patients in any trial is a small number of patients. N equals 8 is not really statistically significant in this. NIAID also did not release any sort of press release in conjunction with Moderna. So those are a couple of other things that Stat News raised questions about. Tim Seymour, we did sort of question the notion of releasing data from an incomplete phase 1 trial yesterday. But does that mean that whatever gains we had made from a hope rally should in fact disappear?
Well, and they didn't all disappear.
Right.
But as Guy pointed out, Powell plus Moderna is 1 + 1 = 3 yesterday. We got a bigger response than I think we might with one of them on their own. And in fact, today we got Powell essentially part 2, the exact same speech but delivered in a different forum. Plus Moderna equaled down 1% on the S&P. So it didn't pull back as much either. We've had headlines, whether they have been the Gilead headlines. We've had Abbott Labs. We've had different phases of either treatment, testing, and ultimately vaccine that have given the market hope for the last 6 weeks. That either way is not going to be an immediate result. And what I think the market has to come to grips with is this balance between what's going to be a staged recovery for people going back to work. Even if we had the vaccine tomorrow through phase 3 with a bow on it. So I think if you look at what the market did in the last hour of trading, it lost 30 S&P points, and the trades that had been essentially not working for a couple days, which were the growth trades, but the mega cap check trades, the pristine balance sheet trades, those are the ones that were more defensive into the close. I think the markets either way are going to be in this range, and I think the bears will point out to say, hey, look, both technicals around 29.50, fundamentals getting 3/4 of the way through earnings season don't give you a lot more reason to get excited here, especially with big companies like Walmart after a great quarter. Also reversing basically from the opening bell this morning. I know we're going to talk Walmart, but a lot of stuff has been pulled forward here. And for someone that's been constructive, I actually would be somewhat glass half full about the market's reaction to Moderna today, because I think they had to shrug some of that off.
Right. For those, Grasso, watching ranges, where we are even today after the sell-off is probably above what most people's uppermost range, the top end of the range, 2,900.
Yeah, so when you look at it, the 29.55 area is where technicians are really basing their approach to where they want to sell this market. That 27.92 is a 50% retracement. So that's where human nature tells you I got 50% of my money back. I could have lost it all, which let's hope that never happens. But these are people that are coming off of that 6.6 low in the financial crisis. So when you look at it, what is this market basing off of? It is vaccine. What I like about yesterday is the market really gave you some insight to what this market will look like when you get real progress on a vaccine. I think you're going to see a blow off top when you eventually get that vaccine. And to all the bears, what you have to be cognizant of is that every day we go on with this market, we're a day closer to a vaccine actually coming to market. So I think the bears got to be where the bulls sort of, there's no reason to take a stance here at the 50% line. I think you just be cautious and just say maybe, just maybe, you see a vaccine within the next 4 months, not 18 months.
4 months. That's a pretty short time frame as it is. I mean, Karen, how do you sort of trade this whipsaw action in the markets, especially when, granted, this could be a glimpse of what the markets will trade like once there is true progress, but that true progress, we don't know when that is going to happen, and it could be 4 days, it could be probably not 4 days, unfortunately, 4 months, or it could be a year or two.
Right. Right. I mean, the run up, including sort of capping it off with yesterday's move, was extraordinary. So today I was a net seller. CVS, for example, something I bought, in March. And then Target, we'll get to that when we talk to Walmart. But can I just go back to that Moderna offering for 1 second, if that's okay? It's amazing to me. So they talked about the 8 patients, but apparently I believe there were 45. If they currently have data that is less optimistic than what we've heard about those 8 patients and still did an offering without disclosing that information for $1.25 billion worth of stock, that would be probably not so cool with the SEC, would be my guess. I don't know what we can read into it that they proceeded with that IPO, only releasing that amount of data that they did. But if it comes back later that they had information knowing it wasn't quite as rosy as it was painted to be, I think that would be a difficult situation for them.
There are certainly a lot of questions,
but it shows us.
Right.